In today's video, I'm going to talk about why people burn sage. As you can see in this video here, why is Kyrie Irving burning sage around the basketball court before a game? And I've been seeing this more often in, the movies and different new age spiritual practitioners. And I've been seeing more depictions of even Indigenous people doing this, which in the case of Indigenous people, it's been done for centuries and eons. But what I have noticed is there's not much content out on why and some of the nuances as to why people burn sage. And I've been leading and teaching in the realms of spirituality for 2 decades, and I come from a family of intergenerational spiritual practitioners, meaning that the knowledge, similar to Kyrie Irving, the knowledge has been perfected and passed down over generations. I have here a little bit of an in-depth explanation. I've been working on different course curriculums that deal with some of these. The modalities that I'm going to talk about today are embedded within this course framework here, and it is called Plant Guides, Feathers, and Frequency Masterclass. For retreat leaders and spiritual teachers, these are the primary people that I've been working with, talking with, is people who are practitioners and people who are learning about these modalities so that they can go on and help others and to share the healing and positivity with the world. The outcomes in today's video are primarily these top 3. Although there is much more that I could discuss on this topic, but I'm just going to kind of give some of the general outlines as to why some of this stuff is done. So without further ado, the outcomes for this course are these top 3 are the primary focuses of today's video. After this course, you will understand how spiritual practitioners use energy work with physical mediums like feathers, sound frequencies to ask and influence different states of consciousness. And this also refers to plant mediums. You'll gain practical knowledge of how these ancient techniques create tangible shifts in your energetic field. And I love this example of Kyrie Irving, burning sage around the basketball court to clear the energy field of the area, allowing you to experience deeper awareness and intentional transformation in your daily life, and being able to explain, implement, and teach an ancient practice to regulate vagal tone and heart-brain coherence. And this is one of my favorite parts about it. I've talked about it in my last video about clearing energy around your biofield, something I've been doing for years, and over the course of 19 years of implementing these things and observing, meditating, and putting these things into practice, after so many hours, you just start to notice patterns, and you start to notice principles and precepts, and you kind of on predictions about how these things start to work in our 3D field and influence the higher dimensions. We're going to go right into a little bit about why I am even teaching on this topic, why I'm even a person to even speak upon this. A little bit of background and context as to my credibility and the frame in which I'm approaching all of this. So, if you're like me, you question and ponder the how and everything. That curiosity has led me on a journey of discovery that bridges ancient wisdom with modern understanding, a path that wasn't always encouraged within spiritual traditions. It isn't often that ritual practices are explained in depth within communities with spiritual practitioners. Through my experiences, I noticed 2 primary reasons for this protective silence. First, most master mystics and practitioners I shadowed were primarily intuitive right-brained thinkers. This made them exceptionally effective as spiritualists, but explaining the mechanics wasn't their priority. The healing aspects took precedence over the analytical understanding. We just know they work was the most important thought, leaving us to follow protocols with simplified explanations. So these things were implemented generations after generation, and we know the health benefits, and we didn't always have to explain the scientific or some of the technical nuances of as to why they worked, and which is what I love to do. I like to go a little more in depth and give some of the in-depth nuance so that people can understand that this isn't religion, this isn't woo-woo. It's actually just pure science. There's a lot of scientific understanding to a lot of this knowledge. And the second reason why this isn't openly shared a lot is many elders felt this information wasn't suitable for the general public. They feared ridicule, misappropriation, exploitation of sacred knowledge. It was simpler to keep these teachings intimate, shared only between trusted individuals and family members. So a lot of this knowledge is intimate knowledge that varies from family to family. And I don't speak for every community, but what I will say is that I traveled the four directions from the north to the south, the east coast, west coast, and I've implemented this practice all over the country. And my knowledge is my personal experience and my personal perspective after having been a practitioner and a spiritual helper for 2 decades. And here's just a little bit more about my story. I won't go too deep into this, but I do want to kind of just give a little context here. So, honoring that line between personal discovery and cultural knowledge. Throughout my journey, I've often reflected on an essential distinction, the difference between personal discovery and cultural inheritance. The framework I share in this course represents my own synthesis of experiences, research, and insights developed over a lifetime of practice. I've always approached this work with deep questions. What were the origins of these techniques? What meanings lie behind these practices? As a spiritual practitioner of 19 years, my calling is to serve humanity through sharing accessible knowledge. What I offer here are fundamental practices anyone can learn, apply to their own well-being and the benefit of those they feel called to serve. Not everyone will resonate with this approach, but for those who do, this framework provides a starting point for meaningful practice. It's crucial to understand that I cannot and do not claim to sell sacred blessings or ceremonies that belong to specific cultural traditions. What I can offer is knowledge that accelerates your transformation and learning journey through ethically shared practices that I've personally developed and refined just through trial and error over the course of 20 years of practice. The exchange of currency that supports this work ensures that these ethical healing practices can continue to reach those who need them. This approach allows each of us to contribute to society in unique ways, honoring both ancestral wisdom and personal discovery while maintaining clear boundaries around cultural knowledge that isn't mine to commodify. So throughout my learning journey, I often questioned my teachers about the practices that they used. Their responses varied. Sometimes they were very open to explaining to me, and some of them would get offended that I would question some of our traditions. And I've had a rare occasion where my spiritual teachers and elders would just be happy to share. And the responses vary from region to region. And it just, from individual to individual, some people feel very comfortable and some people have experienced a lot of oppression and a lot of cultural genocide to the point to where it even affected their comfort levels on being willing to share this type of information. I'm going to leave a link to the course in my description. As time goes along, I'm going to be expanding upon this course. At the current time, I have a couple modules developed, a few how-to demonstrations, but over the course of time, I want to expand this, and I want to start getting feedback from students and spiritual practitioners just for the joy and the love of expanding this knowledge and making it available. So please, would you do me the honor of checking it out, downloading it, giving me a little feedback? I would appreciate that very much. So I'm going to go just real quick into my backstory. As you could see here, my grandfather's influence. My primary inspiration to break this pattern came from my grandfather, who was awarded a doctorate in humanities for presenting at a state university. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he believed in building bridges between worlds. And I want to emphasize that phrase, building bridges between worlds. I feel like there's definitely a gap in analytical knowledge and spiritual knowledge, but I'm from the camp that I believe that there's no contradiction between analytics and intuitive knowledge. And it's one of my great joys and passions to try to bridge those two worlds. So I'm going to skim forward here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey as a spiritual practitioner, because I think it'll help. When I first started leading spiritual ceremonies, I realized that not everybody was going to resonate with my style. Not everybody was going to believe in me as a spiritual practitioner. It varied from region to region. You know, sometimes I was received with open arms and warm welcomes. Sometimes I was laughed at and scoffed at and not taken seriously, which is the nature of all things. You have the 80-20 rule. You're going to have your close supporters, and then you're going to have the perplexed, the people who are nonchalant about some of these topics. So this information isn't going to resonate with everybody. And again, I would really love for people to go through and read a little bit about some of the detailed nuances of my experience, with the hope and the dream that it may be beneficial to somebody on the other side of this screen. And over the course of time, I just, by necessity, just kind of like learned the ins and outs of this kind of work. So this is just a bit about my 19-year journey, going on 20 years now of being a direct intentional practitioner. And prior to that, around 20 years old, I shadowed mentors and, my elders, and I learned behind practitioners before I started having to implement these things myself and be a advocate and be a facilitator of some of this type of work. So we're going to move right into the biofield science and heart and brain coherence. So many times you will see Reiki practitioners using feathers and using sage, making a motion, a cleansing motion with the feather and with the sage. Sometimes in Indigenous country, you'll see them rendering a song, maybe rendering a affirmation or a prayer, and maybe just in their thought patterns, resonant vibrations of positivity, kindness, compassion, and such. And so that's what we're going to go into. What all that means for the energy field, for the plasma field, for the 3D, the 4D, the 5D, these higher dimensions, the dimensions that we can't see. And that's the answer to this question that we said in the beginning of the video. Why would Kyrie Irving be burning sage around the basketball court? It is because whatever heavy energy on a lowered vibration might be hindering the energy of the people engaging in this high level, high brain powered activity, that all of those would be cleansed away so that they can operate freely and get into a flow state. If anybody wants to learn more about this, again, I'm going to be looking forward to maybe hearing any comments, and I want to try to make more in-depth studies on this. And I'm a member of the same tribe as Kyrie Irving, so I'm going to be kind of using Kyrie Irving a lot as a example, because I like how he's incorporating some of these things into his own life. So let's get right into it. Feathers and frequency, the science and the spirit of energy work. You're not a drop in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in a drop. Your body is the antenna through which the universe experiences itself, a receptor and transmitter of an infinite intelligence. The question is not whether you are receiving the signal, but whether you are tuned to hear it. And I like that term, tune. I like that term tune, because it says a lot intuitively. Introduction. A framework for understanding. What you'll notice in my approach to this course is my intention to integrate ancient wisdom that will real studies in science, creating a methodology that's both spiritually profound and scientifically grounded. In this framework, I'll break down this modality through 4 interconnected concepts that work together to create a holistic system. Number 1, sparking heart-brain coherence. How feather biofield attunement induce a measurable synchronization between your heart's electromagnetic field and brain activity. Regulating vagal tone, the neurophysiological basis for shifting from stress to healing states. Quantum consciousness, understanding how consciousness extends beyond the physical brain. And this is the key signature practice that studies are starting to develop more data on, is how we can extend our consciousness beyond our internal field, and how this consciousness could be extended out beyond the body within our resonant field. And number 4, nature's divine design, the specific properties of feathers that make them ideal energy mediums. So you could extend your consciousness beyond the body just using your hands, which are energy exits. I explained this in one of my recent videos. But even beyond that, we have these consciousness mediums, such as a feather, which is a static tool. And there's a couple things to notice about feathers, which I've explained. They represent a lot of things within indigenous cultures. Indigenous people wear them in their hair, as I explained in my last video, but also just the structure of a feather represents a nervous system. All of these micro fibers that extend out almost like a tree. It goes from the stem down, from the stem down here all the way up to the top, and you can kind of see it, but it's a fractal of the tree of life, just a fractal of the tree of life. So a good consciousness medium for what it's made out of, and it's designed by nature. I've realized through my journey that what my ancestors intuitively understood, healing and energy, without having to explain it in depth. The practices that indigenous healers develop through direct experience are increasingly validated by research in biofield science, neurocardiology, and quantum physics. Let me break this down for you. The measurable energy reality. Thankfully, I won't have to overload this course with facts and figures. I've noticed that most teachers and guides in this realm are already intuitively aware of energy practices. It's precisely what they feel called to this type of work in the first place. You already sense this reality. If you don't have the scientific vocabulary for it, our primary goal isn't to become biofield scientists, but to implement and develop our own practice in a frictionless, aligned way that gets results. Just as I was saying in the point I made about Kyrie Irving, he's implementing these things in his own life and becoming a practitioner on his own, intuitively, which is awesome. I would hope to see, and I want to see more people doing this. That said, understanding the basics gives us confidence and precision in our work. The biofield, or what some call the aura, is essentially this complex web of electromagnetic energy that doesn't just surround your physical body, it's actually flowing through you constantly. Think of it as your energetic ecosystem that both influence and is influenced by everything you do, think, and feel. This is an abstract theory. It's the operating system running beneath your physical experience. Here's what the research actually shows. Dr. Robert Becker documented how our bodies use electric systems for healing in his work, The Body Electric, demonstrating that electrical currents direct cell growth during regeneration. HeartMath Institute proved your heart generates an electromagnetic field extending 3 to 8 feet around you, measurable with scientific equipment called SQUID, superconducting quantum interference device. Magnetometers. Dr. Beverly Rubik's 2021 study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine established that this biofield This biofield is complex, dynamic, and extremely weak, but definitely real and influential in health and healing processes. UCLA researchers showed that when people do energy work, their hands emit measurable electromagnetic pulses at extremely low frequencies, similar to those that promote healing in clinical applications. And as you can see in the diagram here, we have the human biofield. As they said, it's a very weak frequency, and within the 3D dimension, a lot of our frequencies are low vibrations and give off a very physical appearance. Whereas you look into the higher frequency realms, it goes into the less visible realm. It goes into the less visible realm at higher frequencies that aren't detectable by the eye. Try this simple heart field awareness exercise. Place one hand over your heart and the other hand extended outward. Close your eyes and breathe deeply for 1 minute, focusing on the sensation in your heart. Now slowly move your extended hand toward and away from your body. Can you sense the subtle resistance or connection points? Many practitioners report feeling their heart's field as a kind of visible boundary that extends well beyond their skin surface. This simple practice begins training your sensory awareness of biofield interactions. And so in my last video, I talked about Jeffrey Allen, which is an energy work healer and practitioner. And he has some really awesome videos on this topic, doing exercises with the hands and that demonstrate how we could physically feel the energy, that we could feel the resonant energy from our hands by doing certain practices. And for some people, it's very, very potent and very powerful, especially as they begin to harness this this work and get very familiar with energy. Sparking heart-brain coherence. Before we explore vagal tone, let's understand how feather biofield attunement specifically enhances heart-brain coherence. The first pillar of our framework. Heart-brain coherence refers to a measurable state where the rhythms of your heart synchronize with your brain activity, creating an optimal state for healing, manifestation, and energy work. The HeartMath Institute has extensively researched this phenomenon, showing that this coherent state correlates with enhanced cognitive function, emotional regulation, and even intuitive capabilities. Your heart and brain fall into sync. Several remarkable things happen. Your nervous system shifts from sympathetic stress dominance to parasympathetic rest and restore mode. Your heart rate variability patterns become more ordered, and your heart rate variability patterns become more ordered and harmonious. Your immune function improves. Your cognitive performance enhances. Your intuitive capacities expand. This work facilitates this coherence through several mechanisms. This work facilitates this coherence through several mechanisms. Number one, the nerve sensation of feathers around the biofield activates specialized nerve fibers. See tactile difference. Number one, the nerve sensation of feathers around the biofield activates specialized nerve fibers. See tactile afferents that respond specifically to soothing motion and signal safety to your brain. The rhythmic sweeping motions create a regular pattern that your nervous system can entrain to, much like how meditation uses breath as a focusing tool. Number three, the intentional focus required during feather energy work naturally brings your awareness to the present moment, reducing mental chatter. The heart-centered intention behind the practice activates your heart's electromagnetic field. In my practice, I've observed that practitioners who consciously connect to heart-centered feelings, gratitude, compassion, love while working with this type of feather biofield attunement achieve much stronger results than those who approach it as merely a technical process. This is because the heart's electromagnetic field becomes more coherent and powerful when we cultivate positive emotional states, such as spiritual flow. And I love this diagram here talking about inducing heart-brain coherence, regulated vagal tone, and alpha brain waves. So the primary terms that I want everybody to, I guess you can say, take a mental note of is quantum consciousness, which is beyond the human mind. We can extend this consciousness beyond the body and into our energy fields. As we were saying in the example with Kyrie Irving, that's the primary focus of these affirmations, the primary focus of these energy cleansing practices and this energy work is about the intentional focus of energy and using it to align others, using it to help others' energy align. And also with the use of nature's divine design. For example, the sage that we mentioned, it's divinely created by nature and the universe, the higher power, the great mystery. And this plant has these healing properties to it, the essence, the smell, the medicinal properties to the chemicals that are released from the brain when we smell this incense. And the same for the feather. As I was saying earlier, nature's divine design represents the tree of life, represents almost like your nervous system. And it has all of these static connection points built within it. And it's a consciousness medium. There's other consciousness mediums that people use, such as, crystals and different healing modalities that in future videos we'll definitely go into depth with those. And the power of the spoken word. I've gave an example in a previous video about the healing properties of speaking love, speaking compassion, how these words actually affect the field around us. The study with water, the study with heart-brain coherence, soothing meditative language, how this affects the body. One example that I came across recently was how when we are a child, we're soothed by our mother's calm and nurturing tone. How this is a modality in which the human body has evolved and used to regulate vagal tone, which is the vagus nerve, and whether or not we are triggered into fight or flight, or we are triggered into safety and peace. So soothing meditative language is a part of this. This course goes into depth. I will put a comma right there in today's video. And again, and the rest of module 2, titled Feathers and Frequency, have covered these topics: biofield science and heart-brain coherence, the vagal tone connection, beyond the brain, quantum consciousness, nature's divine design, the feather energy antenna, and lesson 5, integration and sustainable practice. And as I move forward into module 3 and module 4 and beyond, I want to give some tutorials on how to implement these practices yourself, and also talk about real specifically plant mediums, because there's so many different styles and so many different uses of plant mediums. And as you could see here, down in module 4, I have kinship and synchronizing via plant mediums. So I'm going to go that far today, friends and family. Thank you for stopping by. This is going to be one video of many. This is my life's work. I very much enjoy and appreciate this type of knowledge, this type of education. And if anybody out there in the World Wide Web enjoys it as much as I do. I would love to hear some of your feedback and anything that you would like to hear discussed in future videos. So without further ado, stay well, stay blessed, and I will be back very soon.